Hello, hello, it's Mr. Shine here from HearthstonePlayers.com. Over the weekend, we have about 4 new cards that I want to discuss right now with you guys. So a pretty quiet weekend. I'm imagining there's going to be a flood once December starts here and we get kicked off. Again, who knows when the expansion is actually going to come out. I think I heard them saying that they're going to try to get all the cards revealed before it gets released, which means it will probably take a while, late into December. But again, all speculation, who knows. First, let's start with Shaman. The new card for Shaman is called Crackle. It's a 2-mana RNG lightning bolt, essentially. It does 3 to 6 damage, and it has an overload 1. So worst case scenario is it's a much more expensive lightning bolt, and best case scenario is it's a much better lava burst. So I guess my feelings on this card is, as a standalone card, I think it's somewhat weak. The concern is if you want to spend it to remove something, I don't really feel confident trying to roll the dice on hitting something like a 5 HP minion or going for more. I would rather say I want to make sure that it's going to kill a 3 or 4 HP minion, and then maybe it has a chance to do a little bit of upside. There is the spell power totem that Shaman have, so it does increase that range, and of course you could probably have a very bursty Shaman deck that you build Crackles into, where you can set up some of this and just have a lot of potential damage. I mean, this card has the potential to be huge. 6 damage for 2 mana overload 1 is still very strong, and that a cheaper fireball even with the overload. Of course, that's not going to happen every time. It's going to happen about 25% of the time. And so I guess the way that I feel like is I would be comfortable playing it as a 4 damage removal spell that might miss 25% of the time by rolling a 3. But I still think that it seems like it has potential because it has the ability to go face, so it is flexible, and it has the ability to, I think, be built into more of a bursty Shaman deck. I'm getting a theme here with some of the new cards, that there's a lot of Wind Fury, a lot of burst potential that I think they're trying to allow the Shaman to have. So if you have a deck that has Lightning Bolts and Crackles and Rockbiter weapons and Bloodlust and Wind Fury, you can do a lot of damage in a very short period of time. In fact, I think that it seems similar to kind of a Red Burn deck from Magic the Gathering, where you just have a whole bunch of spells and you just don't care what's going on, you just blast them in the face and just annihilate them before they get a chance to kill you. Don't know if that's going to really work as well as it might work in Magic the Gathering, but I think that this card, if it would happen, it would use Crackles. So I'd give this card, I would say, this is a standalone card, I'll give it a 3 stars. Although it's verging on the sense of 4 just because I think it has a lot of built-in potential, even though it is very RNG-centric. Alright, next up we deal with a new Druid card. It's called the Druid of the Fang. It is a 5-mana minion. It is a 4/4, but the battle cry is that if you possess a beast, it transforms into a 7/7 minion. I think transform probably means that it cannot be silenced, which is good, so that is my assumption based on how other Druid cards go. If it does not have that beast, then it is just a 4/4, and because it's a battle cry, it doesn't matter if you have it on the board and then you play a beast, it's always going to say that 4/4. So a 4/4 for 5 is quite bad, a 7/7 for 5 is quite good, and herein lies the conundrum. Druids are not typically known for beast synergy, and I don't know how many new beasts there's going to be, but the beasts we have right now don't usually fall in line with what a Druid is trying to do. Haunted Creepers, there's maybe Emperor Cobra, there's a few other neutral beasts that they'd be able to use, but again, you'd have to hope that you have that on board, that you draw it, and then you have the chance for it to survive in time to play a Druid of the Fang for some 7/7 value. I think in Arena this is going to be very bad because there aren't, again, that many beasts and you can't rely on all these things to come into play, whereas in Constructed at least you could build a deck around this. But I also wonder, why would you really build a deck around this? Druid has a whole bunch of other big minions. Druid of the Claw is really good at 5 mana. There are a lot of other big beefy dudes for the typical ramp Druid. Having said that, I think there's a chance, and we have not seen all the Goblins versus Gnomes cards yet, so there's a possibility that there will be more good Druid Beast cards, in which case this card will go up significantly in value. But from what I see right now, I think this is a worse Frostwolf Warlord that has a little bit less in terms of upside, but it's easier for it to hit the downside by you not having a beast, whereas with the Frostwolf Warlord, it's much easier to have at least 1, maybe 2 minions out and get some good value from it. And of course, the Warlord also has a much higher ceiling in that it can be a 10/10 if you have a full board and you drop it. Unlikely, but still I think hitting that 7/7, it's kind of hedging its bets. Ultimately, I would give this card a 2 out of 5 stars just because I think its ceiling is a little bit lower than Frostwolf Warlord, and its floor is much more likely to go into effect than Frostwolf Warlord's floor. So I think it is just a little bit worse, but that could all change if we see a lot more new beasts. One card that I do think is pretty good, though, is Steamwheedle Sniper. It is a 2-mana 2/3, and its ability is your hero power can target minions. So this is something that we have not seen before with a Hunter. It is something that we've seen with Priest, with Archive Soul Priest, and Shadow Form, the ability to change your hero ability from a defensive to a more offensive. With Hunter here, it's changing its completely offensive face damage into much more control-oriented. You can clear the enemy's board when you have the Steamwheedle Sniper in play. And I think, again, this card, as far as current Hunter decks, does not have a place because you really want to hit face generally with the decks that are currently around. But I think that this card lends itself again to a Control Hunter, which pretty much every single card that has come up for Hunter from the Goblins vs. Gnome expansion is leading itself towards a Control Hunter. So I think that this card, it seems to be what Blizzard is again pushing. I think that in the arena, a 2/3 for 2 that has the ability to change your hero power into dealing 2 damage to an enemy board minion is super strong and will definitely see play, even though it is an epic, so it will not see play very often. But I will pick it most of the time, I imagine, if I would play and draw this card in the arena. In the constructed side of things, this card will only see play in a constructed Hunter deck that is based on control. And if that happens and comes to pass, which I think it will be very strong, because that ability to allow your hero ability to keep on giving and deal 2 damage is incredibly strong. It means this sniper needs to be dealt with. It's a 2/3, so it's not super easy all the time, but it also has the ability, if you are past 4 mana, that you can play this and have its effect go into turn immediately. So it's kind of like 4 mana, drop a 2/3, deal 2 damage, which is kind of like a Stormwind Knight in some ways, the 2/5 with charge for 4 HP, because it can deal 2 damage with something and survive, and maybe it'll take a little bit of damage and become a 2/2 or a 2/3. But of course, this card will then keep on giving, and I think that it's something that will need to be dealt with after the fact. I give this card a 5 out of 5 stars, simply because I'm dealing with arena mostly, and it has a lot of value potentially with this card having the hero power do more work for you on clearing the board. Alright, well there we go. That's the 4. I imagine once this week starts, there will be a lot more releases, and we'll have a lot more to talk about. But until then, I've been Mr. Shine, and I will see you next time.